Ready?
So I'll call the October 26th Seward City Council regular meeting to order. Lieutenant, could you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, next on the agenda is swearing in the newly elected officials.
If I could have Vice Mayor McClure and Council Member to be DeMoss come to the podium. If you can stand there and so that the folks at home can see you. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, and state your name,
I, Sue McClure. I, Wes DeMoss.
do solemnly affirm,
Do solemnly affirm
you can say it together, that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Alaska,
the Constitution of the State of Alaska,
and the laws and ordinances
and the laws and ordinances
of the City of Seward, Alaska,
of the City of Seward, Alaska,
and that I will faithfully and honestly
and that I will faithfully and honestly
perform the duties
perform the duties
of the office of Council Member of the City Council.
of the office of Council Member of City Council.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. And this is yours. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Madam Clerk, when you're ready, could you call the roll, please? Cease.
Here.
Bachwan.
Present.
DeMoss.
Here.
McClure.
Here.
Ostenga.
Here.
Mayor Terry.
Yes.
You have a quorum, Mayor.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is citizen comments on any subject except those items scheduled for public hearing.
Madam Mayor, you will tonight hear from each of the three candidates for the council vacancy. And the first one is Rissy Casagranda.
Honorable Madam Mayor and council members, Rissy Casagranda, Seward City Limits. Seward is my home. I love this community. The world has been faced with a lot of challenges in the past year. I ask you appoint me to serve the citizens of Seward. I believe with perseverance, hard work, and dedication, Seward can recover quickly and come out on top. I have learned a council that works collaboratively with their employees and together as a body can conquer great things. I look forward to being a part of your team and discovering innovative ways to support a high quality of life while working in a fiscally responsible way to balance the citizens' budget. I am excited to serve as a strong supporter of a stable economy where government encourages growth. I ask you please vote for me. I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, next is Sean Corrigan.
Madam Mayor, council members, my name is Sean Corrigan. I live in the city of Seward, and I'm running for the position of council member Dale Butts. I've been serving the community for over 25 years. 24 of that was at the Seward Fire Department. I also was at the police department, ranking chief of assistant chief for the fire department and dispatch supervisor of the police department. I'd like to continue to serve my community by being a member of council to be able to help with the different problems and stuff and tasks that we need to do to make this community stronger. I have experience in emergency preparedness, public safety, and willing to lend my ear on it. So I ask for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, last is Kyle Walker.
Hi everyone, I'm Kyle Walker, I live inside the city limits. It occurred to me that it's an unusual situation to have someone resign and then have a member of a legislature appointed by the members of the legislature to fill that spot, because that person does not have a mandate from the people, they're selected by other people, which means that person has to fill a kind of unusual role for a legislator, because they aren't really in a position to say, 50% of the people voted for me, which means that my ideas should carry the day in the chamber. And I've had a lot of people approach me since I quit my job as the reporter for the Weekly Seward Journal, and I gotta say it feels weird not taking verbatim notes here or photographing people. Getting over that a little bit. And that job, and the jobs I've had previously, are a lot about sifting information judiciously and impartially, to the extent that humans can do that. And it occurred to me that while I'd kind of been brushing off suggestions from people that I run for city council, that I might fulfill this role pretty well. And if you agree with me, then that's a decent reason to pick me, and if you don't, more power to you. It's nice to see you guys in person instead of through the little light box on my lap. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, we have no other citizen comments.
Okay. Thank you. Next on the agenda is the approval of the agenda and consent agenda, and I'm looking for a motion and a second.
I move for the approval of the agenda and the consent agenda.
Second?
Thank you. I'll look around to see if there's any changes, deletions, additions. Councilmember Cease?
Yeah, I would like to take, to vote on and appoint the new council member up towards the top instead of the last thing on the, almost the last thing on the agenda.
Okay, did you want to make that motion?
Yes, I do.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, discussion?
I just think that if we're all going to be here and they all had a chance to look at the packet online, that I think that they should be up at the front. And so we get a full agenda or a full diocese.
Is there any other?
I'd like to ask the clerk if that's within legitimate process, I guess. I don't know.
It is, Vice Mayor McClure, it is up to the body too.
Oh, okay.
So I just have another question for the clerk. So I know we just did that most recently when Councilmember Kreitz was appointed, but up till that time, I tried to check historically. It seemed like it was mostly just under new businesses when that would happen. Do you know, I didn't ask you to look up ahead of time. It just seems like, do you know of any other instances besides the last time that they had redone it that way?
I don't, but the agenda belongs to the body. So as a council, as a body, you can decide the order of business and it's within your authority.
Oh yeah, no, I understand that. I was just asking if you knew any other,
I
the historical.
didn't look up any history, I'm sorry. No.
Okay, I guess I have some questions for the applicants if there's no, if we can suspend the rules if there's no objections from the council.
Agenda.
No, I mean, I want to suspend the rules to ask the applicants a question that pertains to this, moving it. So are there any objections to suspending the rules?
No.
So I just want to ask the applicants, so did you receive a packet and were you expecting to make deliberations on the whole of the entirety of this packet? I'll ask each of you, I guess.
Yes and yes.
Okay.
Yes, for me as well.
Okay.
Yes and no. I did look at the packet, but I didn't have any expectations because I didn't know how you guys, if you were going to move it to the front or the back.
Okay, but you have reviewed the material. Okay. We'll go back on the record. Okay. Is there any further discussion? Clerk, could you call for a vote on that?
So, moving other new business item, vote and appoint a new council member to replace the vacancy left by Councilmember Dale Butt's resignation. To the top of the agenda, Osinga,
Yes.
Cease,
Yes.
McClure,
Yes.
DeMoss,
Yes.
Bucklawn,
Yes.
Mayor Terry.
Yes.
This has been approved.
So where did the clerk put that, when you say the top of the agenda, where will we take that up?
right after the approval of the agenda and consent agenda.
Okay, thank you. I'll look around. Councilmember Buckland?
I'd like to remove Resolution 2020-082 and postpone to the second meeting in February.
So, Madam Clerk, do we need to vote on that postponement?
Not if it's approved with the agenda.
Okay.
There's no disagreement.
Did you have a question, Vice Mayor?
No, I don't think so. I just
Okay. Are there any other changes?
Yes.
Councilmember Buckland?
I'd like to remove Resolution 2020-085 from the consent agenda.
Do you have another change?
I'd also like to remove Resolution 2020-086 from the consent agenda.
Okay. I'll look around one last time. Administration, did you have any changes?
Oh, no, we don't.
Okay.
But you,
Resolution 2020-083 to be moved to the November 9th meeting, please.
Okay.
I
And
had
that,
one more.
okay. Yes, Councilmember Buckland?
I'm sorry, I think it...
I want to take off, well, while you're looking at it,
Yeah.
I'd like to take off other new business items. Number 4, the rescheduling November 23rd regular city council meeting to November 30th. If that could come off the consent agenda.
Oh, that was it. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Okay, does that look good? All right, Madam Clerk, if we could have a vote, please?
So, voting on the approval of the agenda and consent agenda. Ozinga,
yes.
Cease,
Yes.
Buckland,
Yes.
DeMoss,
Yes.
McClure,
Yes.
Mayor Terry.
Yes.
So, the agenda and consent agenda have been approved. On the consent agenda, we have Resolution 2020-084, renaming the north and south right-of-way currently known as Rush Loop to Dunham Drive, located within the Gateway subdivision. Approval of the October 12th, 2020 City Council regular meeting minutes. Approval of the October 15th, 2020 City Council special meeting minutes, confirming the Port and Commerce Advisory Board should continue to work with the Electric Utility Department to review the city's interconnect policy.
Thank you. And just for the record, did you want to read those, just the resolution 2020-082 is postponed to the second meeting in February of 2021. And then the resolution 2020-083 will come before us again on November 9th. And I think that was it. Great, thank you. So next on the agenda is vote and appoint a new council member to replace the vacancy left by council member Dale Butts. And that process is on page 99, but Madam Clerk, if you wanted to go ahead and verbally outline what that looks like.
So council members, each one of you has a small packet of vote sheets in front of you. One of the packets contains a list of the 3 candidates. So please take one ballot, cast your vote for one candidate, sign it, and pass it to the clerk.
And so there's also one that's a blank, because we could, within our rights, decide on someone else.
I'm sorry, the blank ones are for later in the meeting.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. If you want to write in a candidate, you can write it in.
Okay. And that whoever's chosen needs to have 4 votes, correct?
That is correct. Takes 4 to carry.
Is that 2?
Yes.
Whoops.
So, Rissy Casagranda, Rissy Casagrande, Sean Corrigan, Sean Corrigan, Sean Corrigan. So we have a tie.
Okay, so we'll vote again. And it's after 3 times of a tie, potentially, we will do a coin flip. Is that correct, Madam Clerk?
Madam Mayor, the city code reads that if a tie vote exists, the tie shall be broken by a single coin toss. If no contest is initiated under the provisions of 4.05, the result of the election shall be publicly declared. So you can do a coin toss. Typically what we do is we cast at least 3 votes, and if the tie remains 3 times over, then we'll do a coin toss. That's historically how we've done that.
Sean Corrigan, Rissy Casagrande, Sean Corrigan, Sean Corrigan, Rissy Casagrande, and Rissy Casagrande. So we are tied again.
Sorry, Cheryl, I looked at your handwriting, but I didn't see who you voted for.
Don't really matter.
Rissy Casagrande, Rissy Casagrande, Rissy Casagrande, Sean Corrigan, Sean Corrigan, Kyle Walker.
Okay, so what is the wishes of council? Do we take another vote?
So we're not tied on that one.
Yeah, no, I know. That's
Okay.
what I'm just
I
checking.
think we need to.
All right.
So voting for ballot number 4.
Rissy Casagrande, Sean Corrigan, Sean Corrigan, Sean Corrigan, Rissy Casagrande, and Rissy Casagrande. So tied again.
Wishes of council? I'll take a poll. What would you like to do, Councilmember Cease?
Oh, one more time.
Okay.
Okay.
Does that sound good?
If somebody wants to, sure.
Ballot number 5.
Rissy Casagrande. Rissy Casagrande. Kyle Walker. Sean Corrigan. Rissy Casagrande. And Sean Corrigan.
So we're voting again.
Rissy Casagrande. Rissy Casagrande. Sean Corrigan. Rissy Casagrande. Rissy Casagrande. And Kyle Walker. So 4 for Rissy, 1 for Kyle, 1 for Sean on that one.
Congratulations, Councilmember Casagrande. So,
Madam Mayor, we need a motion in a second.
okay, so we will move to confirm Rissy Casagrande as into the council appointed seat. Do you have a second?
Second.
Can we call for a vote, please?
So confirming Rissy Casagrande into the council appointed seat. Bachwan,
Yes.
DeMoss,
Yes.
Cease,
Yes.
McClure,
Yes.
Osenga,
Yes.
Mayor Terry.
Yes.
This has been approved.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone that applied for that seat, and congratulations to Councilmember Casagrande.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Kyle. Okay. If you'll raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Rissy Casagrande,
I, Rissy Casagrande,
do solemnly affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United
the
States,
Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Alaska,
the Constitution of the State of Alaska,
and the laws and ordinances
and the laws and ordinances
of the City of Seward, Alaska,
of the City of Seward, Alaska,
and that I will faithfully and honestly
and that I will faithfully and honestly
perform the duties
perform the duties
of the office
of the office
of council member of the City Council.
of council member of the City Council.
Thank you. Congratulations.
This one?
It's your seat.
Next on the agenda is Proclamations and Award Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And I did see someone here from Seaview to accept the proclamation. We might social distance. I'll have you stand definitely at the dais so that folks at home can see you. And I might just say, I'm not wearing my mask because I've been wearing it every day practically since the last council meeting. So it wasn't clean to wear tonight, but thank you so much for distributing those to council. Whereas domestic violence is a pattern of control in an intimate relationship where one person uses coercion and violence to gain power and control over their partner. And whereas domestic violence is a serious crime that sadly impacts Alaskans at a higher rate than any other state in the nation. And whereas according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men will experience domestic abuse at some point during their lifetime. And according to a statewide study conducted in 2015, 40% of Alaska women experience intimate partner violence in their lifetime. And whereas everyone without regard to age, race, religion, gender, or economic status deserves a safe, violence-free home. And whereas the domestic violence affects children, families, and entire communities, and too often children that grow up in homes where domestic violence is taking place can have lifelong repercussions, including increased ACEs scores from the emotional and physical trauma of experiencing or witnessing domestic violence. And whereas Seaview's Domestic Violence Sexual Assault DVSA program works to help families experiencing domestic violence to regain safety and stability in their lives and heal from the trauma of domestic violence. And whereas it is important to recognize the subtle signs of domestic abuse, know how to support someone in an abusive relationship, and find out where to get help if needed. And whereas Domestic Violence Awareness Month provides an opportunity for citizens to learn more about preventing domestic violence and to show support for the numerous organizations and individuals who provide crucial advocacy, services, and assistance to victims. And whereas the City of Seward is committed to working with local and state partners to help end domestic violence in our community and joining with others across the state of Alaska and the nation in supporting victims of domestic violence and sharing the worthy goals of this month-long observance, while also supporting the work of public and private entities that strive to provide the best coordinated response to domestic violence in communities across the state, sending a loud and clear message to abusers that domestic violence is not tolerated in Seward. Now therefore I, Christy Terry, Mayor of the City of Seward, do hereby proclaim October 2020 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month and support the crucial work of Seaview's DVSA program and encourage citizens to wear purple and work together to eliminate domestic violence in our community, dated this 26th day of October 2020. So, and then, Ms. Towsley, if you want to say a few words, that would be wonderful.
Promise it's not a 4-page speech. We believe at Seaview's Domestic Violence Sexual Assault Program that every human being has the right to a safe and violence-free home and in their relationships. Thank you to the council for supporting the program, for supporting this proclamation. Thank you to the clerk's office for helping us put it together and get it on the agenda today. And thank you for the community for helping to support the DVSA program as we move forward. We have a survey that will be coming out very soon that will hopefully point us in the right direction for how our program can best serve the community that we are honored to be a part of. So thank you again.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is City Manager's Report. Manager Mazzaros.
So we do have 3 checks tonight. Electric Department for 10,869 kilovolt views. Public Works, $18,750 for the rockfall mitigation they did over on Lowell Point Road. And Public Works for $79,099. That was approved by Resolution 2019-88, which is a Vector truck and the shipping. We've been looking for that for quite some time. The personnel transactions are attached. The utility director is here. I'm going to have him go over a couple of items. We did interview a potential candidate for the director position last week. I don't know if he'd like to talk about that, but Corey is here if he'd like to speak a little bit about some of the department items, if that's all right.
Yeah, please, Corey. I might just interrupt really quick. I guess the TV has very little sound. I don't know what the issue is. But
The GCI apparently hasn't been able to resolve the issue yet, so I know they've been working on it. And it's not inside of our facility that the problem is.
Okay, so I might just say, I know it's tough for folks that TV might be their main outlet, but if they're able to get on YouTube and also Facebook and also 91.7. Yeah, so sorry for the inconvenience to our public. Corey, thank you for letting me interrupt you. You go ahead.
No problem, and I'll try to be brief. I know you have a busy meeting tonight. A couple of things. One, during the past 4 weeks, there's been 5 what I would describe as major outages. That's created a lot of questions, a lot of discussion. 3 of those outages were due to trees, growth in the lines. The other 2 outages were due to faulty equipment. One is a jumper on the transmission line between Dave's Creek and our line substation, and the other one was on the Town 2 circuit, the fuse that blew. And basically when they're citywide outages like that, we get a lot of calls, and we've been doing a lot of what we call hot wash to figure out how to better communicate issues. We've had meetings on that. I'll make sure everyone's informed of what's going on during an outage. We think we can do better, and we've got a number of ideas in the hopper here to get that better communication going. I want to briefly describe the outages and the history. I went back and looked at them, and actually we have fairly good records of the outages. So far this year, there's been 64 outages, but in 2019 there were only 35. 2018 there were 75 outages, 2017 74, and 2016 52 outages. So about an average of 60. So we're a little bit ahead of our average, but we're not in an extreme situation, I guess is how I would describe it. We have 42 miles of transmission lines that belong to the Seward Electric Department, City of Seward, and we have 70 miles of distribution lines. And we need to work on a organized plan of maintenance of those lines. Generally, you think the line should be cleared once every 7 years, which means we'd have to do about 10 miles of lines a year. In 2019, they did clear 10 miles of lines. This year, they think it's more like 1 mile. Previous years, less. So we're way behind in organized clearing, and we need to get that organized and kind of committed. So it's something that I think we can get caught up on, but it's something we need to work on. So that's on the outages, and also I'll write this up for the CMR for next time, so you don't have to keep these numbers in front of you. I'll have bar graphs and things like that, so you can kind of see what it looks like. There is some really good news today. I've been telling folks that we've got these bidirectional meters coming. Well, they actually arrived, and Mr. Cluza's meter was installed today.
Okay.
So we have 2 other meters to install. They'll be done in the next couple of days, if not tomorrow, which I would hope. And we're moving forward. I put in my CMR this week that we had a new review and inspection of a new solar system that was installed. So we're very excited. We've been talking to vendors, trying to get some excitement, saying people of Seward are ready and the Seward utility is ready. So let's bring on the program. So anyway, we're happy with that. And then finally, I want to talk a little bit about the Rail Belt Reliability Council. Maybe there were some questions about that, but the City Electric Department, I engaged David Burlingame, who is a kind of fairly famous engineer, transmission line engineer with Dryden LaRue, and the EPS is an owner, principal of that company. We engaged him to work on behalf of the City of Seward on the Rail Belt Reliability Council. The Rail Belt Reliability Council is an organization made up of 12 individuals, 6 of them representing the rail belt utilities, and the other 6 kind of other stakeholders. I think we're really fortunate to have Mr. Burlingame doing this. He's doing it on a volunteer basis because he was interested in serving on this. Procedurally, I maybe had misstepped, and anyway, but I'll make a full report on this on the next CMR so you can have an understanding. But the Rail Belt Reliability Council is meeting weekly. It requires expertise and knowledge, and even though some of the folks in the utilities may not be the engineers, they got engineering staffs behind them to give them guidance as this organization develops rail belt reliability standards, planning standards, and deals with the Regulatory Commission of Alaska. I know that when they were talking about this, organizations require about 40 hours a month of work and effort, and more if you're on committees. So it is a fairly significant commitment. Anyway, the idea of the Rail Belt Reliability Council is we're going to have a better understanding of reliability for the rail belt utilities as they all interact. And there's hopefully going to be some better efficiencies with the rail belt utilities. So that's everything I wanted to share tonight, and I'll be glad to take any questions.
I just have 2 quick questions. Remind me again, I think in 2021 is when our power agreement ends with Chugach. Is that in June of 2021, or what's the date?
It's December.
December.
Yeah, December 31, 2021.
Okay.
We've already started discussions with Chugach.
Well, I think that in not just Chugach, but we should be shopping around for the cheapest power.
Yes, and we've told Chugach we're going to be doing that.
Okay. And then I just had one more question. Thanks for putting those other two things in the next city manager's report. I appreciate all the information that you do give us. And then you have in here issues with 3 of the 6 generators, and that EPC has been working with Seward and doing troubleshooting. And I really do like the idea to run the units more often to provide additional cross-training and make sure they're up to speed. There's been some years where that wasn't happening, so thank you for doing that. Have they found anything from the time you submitted this report until today?
All 6 generators are now working.
Great.
Functioning.
Thank you.
So EPC was able to work with our folks, who are very, very good, by the way.
Yeah.
And get everything running. So we are running it once a week now, and including the line personnel are participating in the running of it. They're learning, and there's training going on. So it's a little bit more expensive, but the reliability is going to be worth it.
Yeah, I mean, we do have excellent power plant operators in Lyman, so thank you for that. Are there any other questions? Sorry I monopolized that. Well, thank you, Corey. Thanks for being here all the time. I appreciate it.
Yep, I appreciate it.
Administration, did you have anything else?
I don't think so.
I'll look around. I guess I have a couple questions for administration today too, if I can just jump right in there.
Sure.
Which I know that it's hard to find a finance director, but is there anything we can do? I know we've talked to AMLGIA. I mean, do we need to, I mean, I would really like to see us think out of the box. Do we need to hire a headhunter team? Like, you know, can we?
Several of them have that going, and they're still not doing it either. About the only thing I can think of is throwing money at it. I don't know if this council wants to do that. It's nationally advertised with the General Finance Officers Association, with the ICMA. It's been in the state of Alaska since June of last year. It's just a matter of there's no pool to hire qualified people in that field up here right now. Most of the other managers hiring have called me and said, hey, what are you doing? Same kind of thing. Obviously places like Dutch and Alaska, even though it's 50 to 60,000 higher than what we pay, they don't have very many applicants either. And most of them have had like this 2 to 3 month run with the people they've hired. So, I mean, I don't know, what do you do in the field when they're underemployed up here? I don't know that we're going to find somebody in Alaska, so it's hard to know if you pull somebody up. I mean, realistically, the only thing you're going to do is throw a higher salary at it. We have had like 3 applicants since December. Currently, we do have an interim, and he's really excellent. He does a lot of the work for Sam and I at the end of the month. I don't know how much we want to dish to him. It's big picture stuff.
Yeah, and so, when we say we have an interim, it doesn't sound like the person is doing like conceptual. It sounds like you're having him balance the end of each month.
Yeah, the end of month journal entries is a lot larger than just a day-to-day type of, day-to-day we're really good.
Yeah.
And our staff, we do have almost a full staff right now. So
it's just the vision, I think, is probably, because I mean, we know Sam is excellent, we know the staff in there are long-term and excellent. It's just the finance director has that different vision piece to that position. Maybe, Walt at the Sea Life Center is excellent. I'm not saying steal him, but maybe ask him if he has any connections, old college friends,
I think we have lunch with him on Wednesday.
Okay, good. Yeah, I mean, maybe pick his brain and see if, talk to Providence, maybe they have some leads. I mean, we really need to get a finance director in here, especially with COVID and our impacts to our...
I would love to have that happen.
Yeah. And then I have a couple other things, and I'll try to be quick. So, thank you for sharing the information that the maintenance and operation of the tunnel is now extended to 2027. That's huge for Seward, because up until that bill passing, we were back on the hook for that. And, I went to one of those meetings, and, I want administration to think about maybe getting a second opinion on those core plans. Seward's gotten screwed by the Corps in the past. They've done good things for us, but we've also had to pay them a lot of money for mistakes that they've made here. So, I just want to problem solve and see if we want to have our own engineering firm take a look at what they're telling us and because I don't want to get into another situation with the airport, where it's 4 years from now and they said, we've been meeting with you people for 8 years and we didn't know there was a problem. The city just really needs to be sure that.
So there isn't really a second opinion for the U.S. Corps of Army Engineers. This is a $150 to $200 million project that Congress pays for all of it?
Well, one of the things that they're saying is they can't put the tunnel further south because of the grade. I think we should at least take a look and make sure that their calculations are correct, because it needs to be a 4% grade. They've like I said before, they've made huge mistakes in Seward that we've paid for later, so we can either pay for maybe things in the front end and the back end.
I'll find out if there's a way to do that. Corey left, he would have more insight into that than I do. But
Okay. Well,
I can investigate that.
we just, there were a lot of issues brought up at one of the meetings with, that's a very key corner. The Sea Life Center intake, we have the Sekuliak dock there, we have a fisheries there. We just need to make sure that that's being done correctly.
Okay.
I'll just try to keep going. Museum storage leak, do we know the status on if that's been fixed yet?
We've been working on that a year. Do you know what the most?
The last update, I believe, is that we've got somebody coming down, Long is coming down in about 3 weeks, 4 weeks to take another look at it. The library director's been working on trying to find a contractor that can remedy the issue long term. So
They've come 3
it's
or 4
in
times,
process.
never seem to have the right parts, and it's kind of frustrating for all of us. But it's not a major leak, it's driven into a bucket, but that's not acceptable, I understand that.
I won't speak to it.
And then,
It's not acceptable.
Great info on all the fire department stuff, especially page 21 with the year-to-date project and permits. And, I was wondering if we could even get past years, and then I know with that new building inspector position, it'd be interesting to see if that position, how many building inspections they do, and, have those numbers too.
I do know he passed both of his recent exams as well.
Okay. And then 2 more things. One was, I see in our hiring, we're looking for a new planner. I wonder if as a council, as we're moving into, we don't know all the ramifications, and later we're going to be scheduling the wage study. I wonder if, since we're going to have some attrition in a vacant position, if we want to hold off hiring that until we know what our financial situation is going to be. Does administration have any opinions on that?
I would say, like, if you look at our financials in this packet, all departments and all staff have significantly reduced expenditures, almost to the point of ridiculous.
Yeah.
I don't think we're in a financial situation right now with our staffing shortcomings are significant in the budget. It's up to this council, though. If you want to work on the big picture planning and long-term range stuff, we need to have staff and inspectors. If you don't choose to do that, that's up to the council.
No, I was talking about the planner position.
Right,
Yeah.
and to do the code and the big picture master planning and things that I was, who knows, the council just changed significantly, so the direction might change. I think that's something that's up to the council to determine.
Yeah, I just have concerns as we're looking at the wage study and as we know what the impacts of COVID are. And then one last thing, I promise, sorry. So Vice Mayor McClure helped lead an awesome tour this weekend out at Woodlawn, and it came to my attention that the headstone of Mary Lowell was actually lost by a city employee years ago. So I was just looking for agreement with council, not to allocate any funds, but to ask administration to see what it would cost to replace that. I think all the work has been done. Is there any objections? I'm not saying we have to do it, but to have administration look into replacing that headstone that was lost, Vice Mayor?
Right, and I could supply a picture of the one that was lost, and Lee Pileski has pictures of that, so.
If you just supply that, we'll get that taken care of.
Could you and I work together on that? Okay.
Okay, sorry for monopolizing that. Are there any further questions or comments? Great, next on the agenda is the city attorney report, and that's found on page 22. Are there any questions to pass on to the attorney, or he'll be here at the next meeting, is that correct?
I did want to talk for Brooks, just because he asked me this afternoon, the Jesse Lee Home agreement, it needs to be accepted by this body or have a special meeting, and the deadline is the 9th of November. So it's the night of the next meeting. I don't know if it's 5 p.m. close of business or if the next day is acceptable. But to get that executed, I would either need to, it probably should be an executive session. We could schedule a special meeting this week or any time before the 9th, or I'll try to find out from him if the 9th is acceptable, because it's an evening meeting. It might be too late.
Well, let's go ahead and just look at our schedules and set something right now.
Yeah.
What is everyone's next Monday? It's November 2nd.
I can't.
That November 2nd won't work.
Just the one day I can't.
Oh, sorry, Sue. When we don't necessarily know his availability, did he share that?
He could probably do it by the phone.
Scheduled this week or next Tuesday? What do we want to look at?
Next Tuesday, there's P&Z stuff.
It's
That's
6.
at the library, though.
Joint work session at the
Yeah.
library.
Tuesday.
Is that because it's
Election day.
election
Oh,
day? Yeah, that's like
How about Wednesday?
Wednesday, November 4th at 5:30?
I'm not going to be here, so it would be up to...
Wednesday, November 4th at
Okay.
5:30?
And this is a special meeting, is that?
I'll be out of town, but can I attend?
Via phone? Okay. So, and what's the title? That will be special meeting to go into executive session regarding Jesse Lee Home settlement? Is that what it, or it's Jesse Lee Home
agreement.
agreement? Okay.
I'll
Get
we
the
can
title for
get
that.
that from him.
Okay. All right, next on the, do we need to vote on that, Madam Clerk, or? Okay. Next on the agenda is other reports, announcements, and Chamber of Commerce report. And that's found on page 24 of the packet.
Madam Mayor, can we call the director?
Please.
Good evening.
Hi Jason, it's Brenda. You're with City Council.
All right. Good evening, everybody. And congratulations to newly elected Councilmember Campground. And I know you guys have a lot to go on tonight on your agenda, so I just wanted to kind of give a couple quick highlights. Right now, we are having our Chamber Board candidacy declaration. That's up until the 31st. And then our elections will be the 11th through the 15th. And we have a small business startup week coming up November 16th to the 20th. We're excited about that. It's going to be kind of based around helping businesses pivot. Shop Small Weekend is going to be November 27th to the 30th. So it's like Black Friday through Virtual Monday. And just really trying to help our businesses and our community there and bring business to them this fiscal year. And then also too, we're going to be doing fireworks on New Year's Eve, which is going to be kind of an exciting thing this year. So, and the rest of really is in my report, and kind of most of our efforts outside of those things are just to planning for next year, website development, visitor guide, and visitor services. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Are there any questions for the director? No, sounds great, Jason. Thanks for all that you do and all that your staff does. It's very much appreciated.
Thank you. I'll pass along the word.
Good night.
Yeah.
Drum roll, please. Next on the agenda is CARES Act funding update by City Manager Mazzaros and Acting Finance Director Sam Hickok.
So I would I'm sure you have the handout. Do you all have that on the City Cares project?
She's got one.
Oh, you do? So you had asked for an update on the CARES distribution. Obviously, tonight you have the air packs item. The fire chief will be here later for that. We did only get approximately 44 eligible grants on the tier 2 for the business grants. So the remaining funds, actually, if you look at that, there's no funds remaining. And then that would create a distribution credit to all of the in-city residential customers inside city limits of $364.59. If the remaining funds are, the $345,000 is divided amongst those number of eligible residential citizens. And so that was the direction that council had given. There is a general ledger account statement there. So technically we overspent the funds by $198, but I'm not sure where that came from, but I can find out.
Are there any questions? And so we did get the disbursement from the borough, that's correct?
Correct, and that came in today. We did get the check to the Sea Life Center this afternoon.
Oh, good, okay.
They've been concerned because it's actually technically, I think it's for them a fiscal year, their year ends June 30. So they wanted to get a journal entry done, so they received it last year. Technically, or, yeah.
One quick footnote, Sam and I had talked about timing as far as the the electric utility credit, because there's obviously going to be folks that are going to be wondering when that's going to hit the bill. So barring any unforeseen issues, that credit for $364.59 is going to be applied to everybody's November billing cycle. So it's a fairly short turnaround time. The process is not extremely onerous, and staff are prepared to execute that. Unless council has a desire for us to pivot, but we can take action on that pretty quickly, and hopefully at a time then people could definitely use that credit. So, yeah.
That's great, thank you. I'll look to our new council member. Did you have any questions? Councilmember Cease, you're the number gal. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I started kind of looking at all of them.
Well, and I'm sure administration, if we think of questions, we can email. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I will say for the public, would this be a laydown with on the legislative history?
Yes, we'll have it up tomorrow.
Up tomorrow. Okay, thank you so much. And now, next on the agenda is our presentations, our 2019 audit results presentations by Altman, Rogers and Company. And I might just say for the public, this presentation is only going to be about 10 minutes. However, we had an hour work session, getting deeper into the report, asking questions prior to this meeting. So if you're interested in that, that can be found on our YouTube webpage. And then usually, I don't know if you took notes this time, but sometimes notes are posted also in legislative history. Right. So that would be available later. So this is going to be a higher view, 10 minutes. So with that explanation, I'll turn that over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Grant Todd. I'm an audit partner with Altman, Rogers and Company, CPA firm in Anchorage. Once again, there's 2 packets that should be publicly available, or the city's financial statements, I believe, are posted on the city's website. They're 160 pages long. I'm going to cover probably 15 of those. As I said previously, it's our first year doing the audit, and we appreciate you supporting a local business. As part of our audit, we performed 3 audits, essentially a financial statement audit of the city, a federal single audit, and a state compliance audit. And those last 2 is because you spend over $750,000 of federal money and state money. 2 to 3 audits, we offer 3 opinions. We give you an unmodified opinion over each of those audits. Unmodified means there was no modifications, and that's the best audit opinion you can receive. As part of our audit procedure, we perform testing of your internal controls related to cash disbursements, essentially accounts payable transactions, payroll, the cash receipt system, credit cards, utility billings, and hardware billing. So during that testing, we were able to place reliance on your internal controls with about 95% confidence, or 93 to 95% confidence that the controls that are in place are working as designed. We also looked at all material transactions over each opinion unit. Both material checks and material journal entries. We reviewed about an additional 50 material transactions to make sure that they complied with city code. We tested 2 major programs for federal compliance purposes and 4 programs for state compliance purposes. For the general public, like I said, the financial statements should be available on the state or on the city's website. I would direct the general public to the management discussion analysis, which starts on page 4 of those financial statements. That's a summary put together by management. It's a required portion of the financial statements. And it just sums up the financial data in Word format, and it makes it easy to read and follow. I would commend management. This is a CAF, or a comprehensive annual financial statement, which is essentially just the CAFR means you get a certificate of excellence in financial reporting from the GFOA, Government Finance Officers Association. And that report is given, it's included in here, but it's given on your prior year's financial statements. It's been essentially peer reviewed and found to meet the requirements of financial reporting. So tip of the cap to management for that. Starting on page 17 is the actual financial statements of the city. Page 17 and 18 is the statement of net position, essentially the balance sheet of the city as a whole. This includes all of the governmental activities, which is the general fund, all the special revenue funds and capital project funds, as well as the business type activities column, which is all of the enterprise funds, internal service funds. Bottom of page 18, so 17 is all of the assets and deferred outflows, resources, $254 million. And I should note that this is as of December 31st, 2019, so this information is 10.5 months old. Bottom of page 18, third line up from the bottom is unrestricted net position, essentially available net position. 6.6 million unrestricted net position for your governmental activities, and $20.5 million unrestricted net position for your business type activities. Once again, this is city as a whole. This includes long-term assets, long-term liabilities, debt, capital assets, things like that. Page 19 is the statement of activities. This is the full accrual method, essentially the profit and loss of the city as a whole for the year ended 12/31/19. This includes, has debt payments taken out. Those payments go against the liability, depreciation expense, purchase of capital assets have been removed from expenses. Overall, the city had an increase of net position of $5.9 million across the city as a whole. Page 20, we get into the fund financial statements. The general fund is the major opinion unit, reporting unit for financial statement purposes. All your other non-major funds are aggregated into a column. Total assets, year-end current assets, $14.5 million, with 12.2 of that being cash and investments, and then total liabilities of $1.5 million. Once again, quick ratio, current assets divided by current liabilities, roughly 10, so that's pretty solid current ratio. Unassigned fund balance in the general fund was $7 million at the end of the year, which represents 61% of current year, FY19 expenses of $11.4 million. So essentially 7 months worth of reserves as of 12/31/19. Exhibit D1 on page 22. The profit and loss for the governmental fund. The general fund had an increase of $1.5 million, and your other governmental funds had an increase of $100,000 roughly. Pages 24 and 25 are the balance sheet for the proprietary funds, essentially your enterprise funds, 4 majors for reporting purposes, and the other 3 are aggregated together in the non-major enterprise fund column. Total assets across your enterprise funds, $177 million. Total liabilities of $41 million. Unrestricted net position is listed at the third line up from the bottom on page 20. Across your enterprise funds, $17.3 million of unrestricted net position. Page 26 is essentially the profit and loss statement for your enterprise funds. Again, third line up from the bottom, across all your enterprise funds, an increase of $5.7 million during the year, with the largest coming from Harbor of $2.2 million and healthcare facilities of $3.37. Pages 28, 27 and 21, sorry, the cash flow statements for the enterprise funds. Behind these are the footnotes. This is additional information that helps supplement the financial statements, gives a little bit more detail on the numbers that we previously talked about that. Starting on page 71 is a budget actual, original, and final budget for the general fund, along with actual. And then behind that are some required information related to your pension, your PERS plan. The city participates in the PERS Public Employee Retirement System plan. So some required disclosures. Behind that, starting on page 77 is a detailed general fund budget actual schedule that shows a real deep dive into the general fund for the year. Behind that is the non-major combining schedule, so essentially the balance sheet and profit loss statement for the non-major governmental funds, and behind those are the combining enterprise fund schedules. There's also the CFA schedule of expenditures of federal awards. The city expended nearly $3.5 million of federal dollars during 2019. On page 96 is the schedule of state financial assistance. The city expended $2.3 million of state funds during the year. Behind that is the statistical section. There's 24 pages of trend data. This is a requirement for the CAFR. This is pretty handy for the users of the financial statements. It shows 10 years worth of financial data, or covers a number of areas: financial trends, revenue capacity, debt capacity, and demographics. But it's nice because it shows, a lot of different information. Jumping to page 28 is the schedule of findings and question costs. As noted before, an unmodified opinion on the financial statements. We did note 2 material weaknesses, and then below that shows an unmodified opinion over compliance. Findings can be found on page 129. We issued 2 material weaknesses, essentially findings that we consider to have a potential, errors in your internal control, or errors in certain areas. I shouldn't say in internal controls. Just errors in internal control over specific areas. In one case, the electric inventory was not properly supported at year end by invoices to support the balances, and then there was an adjustment that had to be posted by us as part of our audit procedures. And the second finding, lack of internal control over year-end close procedures. As part of our audit procedures, we posted a number of material adjustments to properly state capital assets, accrued interest, cash, debt, inventory, and sales tax receivable. And then on page 133 is a state schedule of findings, question costs, to give an unmodified opinion on state compliance. And the last page of the report is management's response, essentially corrective action plan to the 2 findings we gave. Management's required to come up with a corrective action plan that's to be included in the financial statements. And in next year's audit report or financial statements, we'll have an additional schedule with status of the prior year findings. We'll report on these findings again if they've been cleared or not. The second packet, the smaller packet, is the letter to the governing board. This is required communication with every audit. Talks about some of the estimates that management is required to make as part of the audit procedures or as part of the audit. We've looked at the 3 biggest estimates that affect the financial statements and found them to be reasonable and consistent. The bottom of page 2 is a list of adjustments. Essentially 10 adjustments that were proposed during our audit procedures, and then 1 small adjustment that was not posted due to it being immaterial. And that's it. I will open it up to any questions.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Buckland?
Thank you for your report. I know that we talked about this in the work session, so it may not make sense to people. And I was wondering if we could get a general consensus just to have the details of the $432,665 to adjust cash due to / from in the general fund. And if we could just get that emailed to us.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair question.
Yeah, I mean, if you prefer, I can send you the list in entirety, and if you want, I can try boxing. Because once again, I believe there's a number, or I know for a fact in some of these there's a group, so I'll write what I'm grouping to come up with these numbers, so I can send that to.
So if you send it to administration can distribute it to council. That'd be
Or
great.
Sam, if you guys
Sam,
communicate
yeah.
too.
Okay.
That's
And
great,
then,
thank
and then I was
you.
also going to find the detail of what makes up that payable to Providence.
Yes, thank you.
6.9 million. And then would you like to see a capital asset listing as well? A
Yes,
detailed
that
capital
would be-
asset? You
that
want it
would-
for all governmental activities and enterprise funds as well?
Well, I don't want to make like 2 more weeks of work, but I mean, if it's something that's pullable and able to provide, that would be very helpful.
Sure. You know, I'm not going to, we don't
Yeah.
pull it out of our work papers, it's going to have audit procedures on it. You know, which
Yeah.
might not mean anything, but just in the interest of time, I'll
Yeah.
give it to you. You know,
That
you can
would
disregard
be
those
great.
notes.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we appreciate it. That's great. And again, just for the public, they can go back and watch. It would make more sense. Councilmember Bucklawn?
I know this is an unprecedented year and everything is all virtual, but what steps are we making sure that we can get the audit done in a timely fashion on the next year?
Well, we've already scheduled it. It's scheduled for, I believe starting in the middle of March, I think it's the 15th or the 16th. We're scheduled to be here 2 successive weeks. Again, we're hopeful we can do it on site. We'll work with management or the administration on that. I think doing it on site will be a big step in that direction. Just the transferring as much data as it takes to do the audit, as we found this year, is tough. I mean, obviously we got through it, but obviously there were some significant delays. So I think that's going to be probably the first step. I'm hopeful that, once again, that you guys decide and we'll decide as well. You know, your safety is important, but my staff's important. Safety is important. If we can do that, I think that's going to be a step in the right direction. We have someone scheduled, so early in April, I have someone scheduled to write it for 2 weeks. So by April 15th, the writing should be done. It probably will take me about a couple weeks to get it done, I believe. And I should know this, Tony. I apologize, Mr. Buckland. What is the deadline? Roughly June 1st. I can't remember the.
We generally try to do it by September, but this year, obviously, they pushed it back to November for the government, the audit deadline. We typically try to do it in June, if that's feasible, but.
Sure, and I think it is what I'm saying. And once again, at the start of the audit, I guess as long as we're approved to come back, I believe we are. Once again, as part of the procedures, I have to meet with at least one member of the governing body, and especially if I'm here, it's, if any number of you, and I will leave a number of my cards up here up front. Once again, I work at your leisure, essentially. If you guys have questions or anything, and the administration knows that they can call with questions at any point in time, but if any of you have questions during the year, about anything, you're welcome to call me or email me. But when we come back or during the audit or prior, usually we do it early in the audit, we meet with at least one member, as many members wants to be present. We can talk about timelines and things like that, and then we always try to have an exit conference at the end, and that's where I'll have a better timeline for you. Because once again, if the audit's done, then it's pretty easy to transition to the writing of the financial statements. If it's not, then it just kind of pushes the timeline back.
Thank you.
But yes, ideally, I'd like to meet the deadlines that was set out in the proposal.
Thank you. I'll look around for any final questions. Great.
Appreciate it.
I just do want to thank Grant. It was a lot of challenge with our turnover and having to, inputting the data, and it's very secure, but it was, and I can't imagine how difficult it is on your end to decipher through all the materials that we submitted. And I also want to recognize Sam and his staff. There was a lot of input and a lot of work that goes into this. And thank you for being a transition year. I feel like even though COVID and things were a little bit challenging, I feel like it went fairly well.
Yeah, it was a challenge, but we learned a lot. Next year will definitely go smoother. I think everyone having another year. a lot of the same staff that worked on this audit is already scheduled to work on the audit next year, so I think that will definitely help.
And thank your staff too. It's
Yeah, and I appreciate the hard work that Sam and, I know there's lots of other people who work behind the scenes, that's good to hear. They worked hard, so I appreciate it, so yeah, let him know, and we appreciate it. And like I said, thanks for using Alaska Firm for your audit, we appreciate it.
Great, thank you so much. We very much appreciate your time.
Thanks, thank you.
So I'll just check in with council. Are we good to keep going? Do we need to take a break? I'm usually pretty bad about that. You okay?
We're good.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Okay. Thanks again. Next on the agenda is, we have no public hearings. We're on to unfinished business items, Resolution 2020-078. It's postponed from the previous agenda, Madam Clerk. So that's already on the floor. We don't need a motion and a second to bring it to the floor. Is that correct?
I believe you do still need a motion and a second to bring it on the floor. Do not? Okay, you do not.
The only thing would be if folks want to give a motion and a second for the substitute resolution, but we could discuss it first. I'll turn it over to the sponsors of the resolution.
Okay. I think Councilmember Osenga was going to move the substitute.
Yeah, I was going to move for the substitution in place of the one that we were working on.
That's okay. First and a move and a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, so a motion and a second. So now the substitute's on the floor. Okay, so I'll turn it back to you guys.
I think that this was just a cleaned up version of, there were some concerns brought up, and I think this should take care of all the concerns that were brought up. So it's just a differently worded, or I guess properly worded to what people want.
And I think for the public, we might want to read the title, just so they know what we're talking about.
Okay,
Could the clerk please, for the substitute?
For the substitute.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Seward, Alaska, amending City Council Rules of Procedures, Rule 9B, in order to ensure council agenda items have sufficient time.
No.
We're reading the substitute. Sorry.
Substitute resolution. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Seward, Alaska, amending City Council Rules of Procedures, Rule 9B, in order to ensure council resolutions and ordinances have sufficient time for financial, legal, and managerial review prior to the council meeting dates.
Thank you.
I have a question for administration. So what is the process if a department head needs to get something in because something's emerging and it's timely and it's within that 2-week deadline? How does that get handled at administration?
So currently, that's caused some distension with some of our staff, especially the staff that have to, put the materials together, draft language. So we've literally said like, oh, tomorrow, the deadline for the 9th is what, tomorrow?
Yeah.
So it's like, I've got people scrambling tonight doing work so that they meet the noon deadline tomorrow because, obviously there's always going to be situations where, oh, this comes up and historically I know this body has not been like, oh, just add it to the meeting because of the publicity and the openness about having materials to the public. That's just really a matter of, depending if it needs posting and notice requirements. Like right now, I'm trying to get the attorney to tell me if the scheduled time we gave is good. It's kind of one of those things like it's hard to just say, let's do a special meeting tomorrow or tomorrow afternoon. If it meets the requirements, a lot of times, our staff's like, drop everything we're doing, focus on that. And that's just kind of where, I know Stephen's been cooperating with our staff and kind of spearheading that for us. Because it's been, there's been times when Tuesday morning at 8 o'clock I've got, my executive liaison and the clerk's waiting on us and we're doing like 12 things that are not done. Mm-hmm. And that's just not, it's not conducive on staff side. It's even harder if we don't have any involvement. I think it's our capacity and the ability to say, we are here to work for you. We want to assist, but the other side of that is we have to have time and notice. And, for instance, the attorney has a court schedule and other clients, so it's hard to just say, hey, I need this by, like the last couple things were Friday night, and it was a Tuesday meeting. I don't know if that's enough time for him. For us, it's a challenge, and Stephen could probably speak more articulately to how we've been trying to address that, but I think the idea is we just want to give a quality product that's been vetted to finance, it's come to management to research, make sure it's, you know, is it legal, is it valid question, does it have technical merits that are wrong? We don't want to be putting product out there that we have to wordsmith and do a lot at the meeting. I know that's our intent. It's not our intent to delay, our intent is to like do it once, do it right, get it out. So that's just kind of the whole, when this started up, that's where it kind of started from. But I think our resources are here. We're here to work for the body. And I feel like, you know, any member of the body that's, hey, bring it up at the council meeting and the body decides, yeah, go ahead and direct the administration to work on these issues. The other side of that is, you know, we have a lot of immediate, medium, long-term things we're working on, and it's kind of up to us to determine what's priority, what's really has to happen, and what gets delayed and pushed off because, you know, just have limited time and resources. It's not like every single thing can be done for the next meeting. And I think that's where it's important for us to be, you know, like setting dates is hard. Like for instance, we just now got the draft back for the wage study, and we're putting that out to be scheduled. But like had we said in April, let's do this in June, it's taken a lot of turns to get this project done. And I think that, you know, our intent is we want to get things done as timely and quickly as possible. And I understand in all administrations, it's like the problem is, well, we asked for this, we'd like to see this done, and with that whole mess of other things you're doing, it's like part of that's us putting a timeline on it, but it has to be a reasonable timeline too. And you know, I think that's the gist of it. But
Councilmember Buckland?
I do want to thank the people who, Councilmember Asenga and Vice Mayor McClure for writing a resolution. One, I'm not in favor of any more rules on the amount of time that we have to bring ordinances or resolutions to the council. I think what this was an effort was to build more communication between the council and the administration, which I'm more than happy to do. I think the one problem that I find with this is it still binds us to a time limit that people are not used to. It is a shift for what we, you know, a lot of times what we bring is maybe the mayor will sponsor Suicide Awareness Month, and that comes from the community to the council. Resolutions do not require attorney review, so only ordinances do. So that's one of the boxes already checked for the legal and financial and managerial review. However, I do believe that with the amount of resolutions that are brought forward from council members, that there is enough time if we properly communicate with administration in a timely fashion and use those channels to create those ordinances or resolutions, then we can get them done properly within the amount of time. I don't have the laydown from the last meeting when this came forward, but we had only brought 5 ordinances or resolutions, and a number of those were only support items. So really for the review and all of the discussion or the review that's needed by management, finance and or attorneys, I think we don't bring forward enough to justify this rule. On the other hand, I'll be totally honest, I need help to write my resolutions. So there are the team that I search for, which is the community, to help me form and write resolutions and to have ideas and to work with constituents to bring forward legislation or support that we would like the council or the city to show. Like I said, I feel that a little bit more of that shift and that updating the rules and changing the rules more so is unnecessary at this point. I will, to that being said, have had conversations with the assistant city manager already and have spoken to him about having better communication on ordinances and resolutions with other council members.
Thank you. Administration?
Couple things. I first want to recognize everybody that's had discussions around this topic, and like Councilmember Baclon indicated, regardless of what this body determines tonight with regard to adopting or not adopting this resolution, the basis is that quality communication is going to be the key here. So whether this resolution goes forward or not, I agree wholeheartedly with Councilmember Baclon in that regard. A couple things I do want to point out. First is back to what the city manager mentioned a few moments ago. The dates that are proposed in this resolution, city administration and our department heads are already following this same time frame. So just so you guys are aware, guys and ladies as well, is that administration is holding ourselves to this same standard. So when we have our weekly staff meeting on Wednesday mornings and we talk about resolutions and other business that's coming forward, this is something of key importance. And I think it's also important, and I believe we had talked about this as a group, and there was some vibrant discussion among council members about the question of, well, what's done in an emergency situation? Do we hold ourselves to this line? And I don't believe this body decided that that wasn't something that was going to be possible. Of course, there's a set of standards that you try to live by, but then, you know, we live in a dynamic environment where we're looking out for the people of this community, and sometimes that's going to mean that we flex with the rules. All that having taken place, so we've got quality communication, we've got a set of standards that we try to live to. But I think what this resolution speaks to, what the Vice Mayor and what Councilmember Osenga brought forward when they started talking about the possibility of this resolution quite some time ago, was how does administration, the clerk's office, and this body work together in a collaborative fashion so that the best work product is brought forward for the benefit of the people of this community. And I think it's safe to say that the more time that's given to the process, the better the quality of the product. Of course, if you give yourself less time, that's going to produce a worse quality product. But again, going back to that idea, if you know, something comes up and it has to be delivered in a rush fashion, administration's going to drop everything at the, you know, if that's necessary, and pull out all the stops and move forward. So I guess I would just ask this body to consider those 3 points as you guys deliberate this resolution.
Thank you. Councilmember Osenga?
And I would like to just point out, in our legislative history that was provided for us, for an example, 2019-008, amending and revising Sewer City Code Title II, I would imagine that should be reviewed by a lawyer or our attorneys. And then the next one down, again, amending Seward City Code, sexual harassment, again, I think that would be something that would be looked at by an attorney. So I'm not so sure that it's truthful that everything that the council has brought forward doesn't need to be reviewed by an attorney, our
Is that
attorney.
an ordinance or a resolution?
I'm just going by what this says here. They say ordinances.
Yeah, it's an ordinance?
Yeah.
Yeah, so ordinances do have to
Right.
be reviewed.
Right.
So,
Well, those are just two examples that I wrote off the top here.
Yeah,
I'm
but-
just saying that I think that there are more things that are being done that should probably be reviewed and given a little more time. I don't think that's such a bad thing. All we're trying to do is, again, put out the best product. That's all we're trying to do. And just give the time to do it proper, that's it. As far as the deadline, I think people will get used to that. They got used to the Tuesday before. They'll get used to the Tuesday 2 weeks before. I don't think that's really an issue. I think that's something that they would get used to.
And internally, it's easy, I just can override the department head. And we did that today, like, oh, we need to have this tomorrow, and I'm like, you know, it's big purchases and things, and yeah, we'd like to have them as soon as possible, but, you know, we have a lot of problems with, you know, we have a finite staff that has availability to just draft and do the work, and likewise, you know, just giving, I would prefer to have more of a schedule if we could, so the clerk doesn't just get a big mass of meeting stuff in one meeting, and then the next meeting we're like, oh, it's really light. it's a coordination effort on our behalf as well, but it's really hard to just always know. Historically, we have last year's agendas and they kind of look like this one, and it's, it's similar, but it's, there's so much that we do day to day. It's just, our intent is, we want to work and offer our assistance to everyone and just make the best product. It's also hard. I mean, since I've been here, there's been tons of times when I get here and was not engaged at all, and they're like, things have come on this agenda, and it's like, well, what does the attorney think? Well, they didn't look at it. What does management think? Well, we didn't see it till it got in the packet. And it's, I think for us, it's like we want to see things materialize and be vetted, but we also need to have an opportunity to do that. That's all.
Well, and I might just say, if this happens, I think it would be helpful to have the reach back. Like I know Diana called me about something that I'd like to have on future meetings. So I think that's helpful. It's not just coming from council. If administration wants to help, it's the reach out too if something gets put on the agenda. So, Vice Mayor?
Oh, just to speak to it a bit too, if you recall, this was part of revising things. This isn't adding any rules. This is just adding one more week to a rule. So it's the same rule. There's a deadline. It's just 1 week more that, pushing it back a week, basically. And the whole idea of collaborative working, I mean, that's wonderful. We want a good product. And we did go through a spell of not very good products and having to revise and rewrite and send back. So that was part of our rationale too in this. So it's just our hope that, 1 week wouldn't really throw anybody into too much of a problem.
Well, and I might just add to that, we did, I think the attorney did try bringing draft things forward during regular meetings, and this council really rejected that idea because it got too complicated. So I think that was a problem last year. Well, I think we're ready for a vote unless there's any other discussion. Madam Clerk?
Voting on amending Resolution 2020-078 by substituting the resolution with the substitute resolution. Buckland?
No.
Osenga?
Yes.
DeMoss?
No.
McClure?
Yes.
Casagranda?
No.
Cease?
No.
Mayor Terry?
Yes.
This resolution has failed.
Yep.
The substitute resolution.
Substitute
So
resolution.
now we're back to the original resolution.
Are we back to the original resolution? Okay. Picking up the original resolution. And I think this just differs in that it was for all items. Well, the amendment was made in the title to include ordinances and resolutions, but in the sections, that was not changed. Is there further discussion going back to this resolution? Madam Clerk, I think we're ready for a vote. Oh, I'm sorry.
I would think that we would have to change the body to match the title, wouldn't we? Or did we do that?
I mean, if we could go through that exercise. I mean, so what I'm saying is the binding part of this resolution, if it's passed, will be the sections. The title and the sections will be incongruent, but what will be binding is the sections. Is that correct, Madam Clerk?
Correct.
So I mean, we could go, if you'd like to make that
Okay.
motion, we could
No. Okay.
try it.
I take it back.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Madam Clerk, if we could call for the vote, please.
Voting on Resolution 2020-078. Cease?
No.
Casagranda?
No.
DeMoss?
No.
Osenga?
Yes.
Buckland?
No.
McClure?
Yes.
Mayor Terry?
Yes.
This resolution has failed.
Great, thank you. Next, we're on to new business items. Resolution 2020-082 is postponed. Resolution 2020-083 is postponed. We are down to Resolution 2020-085. Madam Clerk, if you could read that title into the minutes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Municipal Emergency Services for the purchase of self-contained breathing apparatuses equipment for the Seward Fire Department in an amount not to exceed $269,532.90 and appropriating funds.
Do we have a motion and a second?
I'll move for the approval of Resolution 2020-085.
Second.
Administration?
Chief Kreitz is here to go through this for us, I believe.
Okay.
Thank you.
Did you want to talk about the resolution as a whole?
Okay, the resolution as a whole, this has been on the CIP for quite some time, and the department has applied for 2 federal funded grants, the AFG grants, Assistance to Firefighters grants. Very competitive grant process. We were unsuccessful in those 2 endeavors. We lobbied for state legislative funds unsuccessfully, and so now we're kind of down to the wire. These SCBA self-contained breathing apparatuses are what the firefighters wear into burning buildings and other immediate lead to dangerous and life and health situations. So they're a critical piece of equipment. They're 2002 standards, so legally we're in a kind of a pinch of they're past more than 2 standards. We are not supposed to be using them. They have been upgraded over the years to make them compliant. However, they are now past their service life and they can no longer be upgraded. So we are asking for funding to, and we've actually dropped it down. We had 40 air packs, and after careful review, I decided to actually bring it down to 34. I think that's more manageable. And this will replace the bottles also are past their hydrostatic due date. They cannot be tested any further. And also replacing the RIT, Rapid Intervention Team, Fast Attack packs, which is the pack that you would take in for a downed or trapped firefighter.
Is there questions, Councilmember Buckhorn?
So I pulled this off the consent agenda, one, because I had a concern. I stumbled upon the slides from the budget presentation from 2018-2019. Was there previously $20,000 that was budgeted in that year for the air packs, or was it a match for the grants? And what had happened with that?
So it's my understanding, I was not the chief then, it's my understanding there was some allocations towards that. They did do some upgrades on the compressors. Like I mentioned in the packet, our compressor's in good shape now. I don't feel that we need to replace that. They did allocate some funds for a few bottles to replace a few, but as you see, 20,000 was nowhere near, and it was decided it's really best to have, especially when you're talking about that kind of piece of equipment, all be the same vintage model made. That way you're not piecing things together. It's no good when you have to come, you have to ask for 34 air packs, but when you get, well, I need to do 5 here, 5 here, and 5 here, model changes, and then next thing you know, the firefighter has this muscle memory of, well, my pass device is right here. Well, the next model is over here, and they don't know that because they're grabbing a different model pack, so.
I'll go to Vice Mayor McClure and then we'll go back.
Well, I just wanted to make clear, this funding, the $269,000, is from the CARES Act funding.
That's my understanding.
So this isn't from the general.
So that it could get, before the end of the year, kind of
Right.
crunch time. So.
Right. Just double.
Councilmember Buckhorn.
So thank you, Vice Mayor McClure, for pointing that out, and that's the reason why mainly I pulled it off of the consent agenda. I have spoken to people in the fire department and who are like, yeah, we need new ones. These are not functionable. We need them. And it's not that I don't want to provide them. My concern is that we are using CARES Act money for something that was in our CIP, and further down on the agenda statement, it has not been reviewed by our attorneys. So my concern is, what through the CARES Act can we use money for? And since we've already talked about it, allocated funds for it in 2018, 2019, coming back to 2020-21 budget in the capital improvement, how is it okay to use this money for that?
So we actually did, our attorney helped us navigate the borough's list that we sent them. And so essentially, the reason it wasn't fundable is because the administration that did not want to fund some of our list. It is fundable under CARES Act. Our attorney helped us look at that. I don't know why that box isn't checked, because we talked to Brooks about this and other numerous items. It's not budgeted for in this budget year. So the matching and the other projects we already spent money on doesn't impact our, it's not like we have it budgeted and the CARES money through the grant is gonna supplant the money that was used for something else. Does that make sense? So yeah, it's entirely up to the board if they wanna. The problem is I have, the stuff this council approved, well, the former council now with the change of makeup, we approved resolutions for all the camera gear, all the police wear. We're about $1 million that we have to come up with in the budget restatement. And so the borough monies are monies that we're gonna come in to the general fund as a general obligation, but then they change that to be a grant application. So we're working with our attorney and through the borough attorney and through all those funds to try to get all those things that this council had approved paid for with the CARES funds, so that this body doesn't have to go, oh, how do we pay for all these things we approved doing that aren't budgeted?
So can I just distill down the question?
Sure.
So just really distilling down the question. This item has shown up in previous budget presentations. However, you checked with the attorney and that does not negate this expenditure coming out of CARES Act. So this is a legal expenditure out of our CARES Act application.
So we have a link and there's tons of things that will qualify for CARES. The borough monies, they're saying, we send them a big detailed list. They're like, police stuff. They're like, sorry, we don't have, second class borough doesn't do police work. We don't want to pay for any of your items. And our attorney's like, well, these are all eligible. Scott at the borough, well, we're not going to pay for that, so sorry. So we're trying to navigate getting our items, paying with the other project to cover the shortfalls in our budget. And if this council wants to do something else with those monies, I'm just trying to tell you, we have about $1.4 million things like this that have to get done that we need to budget.
Yeah, let me just ask again though, because you're saying the borough doesn't allow this, but our federal application that we have 3 disbursements for,
right.
Looking at those requirements, this
It's
has been approved. Even previously showing up on past capital improvement plans.
Capital improvement plan is not part of our official budget. It's a list.
Okay.
It's not appropriating funds. It's, right now I've got, $30 million for buildings and a new firehouse. So no, those are not obligated funds. It's just a list.
Okay.
Sorry. Does that help?
That helps me. Councilmember Bacon?
Even if former funds have been appropriated to a grant match.
Yeah, if we still have the 20,000 sitting here, yeah, we wouldn't want to do that with that money. So this is a different fiscal year and it is eligible item.
Okay, thank you. Okay, very clear. Is there any further discussion? Madam Clerk, could you call for a vote, please?
Approving Resolution 2020-085, authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Municipal Emergency Services for the purchase of self-contained breathing apparatuses equipment for the Seward Fire Department in an amount not to exceed $269,332.90 and appropriating funds. Cease.
Yes, but if you said that dollar figure wrong. You said 332 and it's 532.
Oh, sorry, 269,532.90.
Yes.
Bacwan?
Yes.
Casagrande?
Yes.
McClure?
Yes.
DeMoss?
Yes.
Osinga?
Yes.
Mayor Terry.
Yes.
This resolution has been approved.
Thank you, Chief Prince. Thank you, administration, getting that.
Thank you, Clint.
Next on the agenda is Resolution 2020-086. Madam Clerk, could you read that title into the minutes?
Revising municipal camping.
And I'm looking for a motion and a second.
Move for the approval of Resolution 2020-086.
Second?
Great. Administration.
So this has come up numerous times. There were some recent meetings with local vendors and local ownership outside the city. And just kind of that general consensus that let's look at our camping fees, should we charge more? There seems to be a really immediate backfill when there's vacancies during the peak times. So Tyler, our public work, our park and rec director, Tyler put together some information on rate structures and some anecdotal information about the region. He does have his own recommendations if you want to hear those, and it's just kind of that, several of the things that we were hearing were, the waterfront sites are way too cheap for premium spots. We have all kinds of information, like we're not a private KOA, not to use their name, but you also don't get those types of bathrooms and heated floors and that type of thing. But generally speaking, if you look at, like, if you go to Kenai, for instance, the rates seem pretty standardized and not diversified for, like, the premium sites. Maybe we are charging, kind of dated. I mean, we have some immediate things that he's fixing in our organization with automation and reducing a lot of those personnel things that we have historically done. But at the same time, maybe we're not collecting the types of revenues that the market will pay and justify, and that's really up to you to hear from him and determine if you wish to reset rates. This would be the time of year to look into those types of things, so that our programming and our systems can be updated before the next spring season opens. So Tyler is here, and if you have questions or...
Councilmember Bucklawn, did you?
Yeah, did you want to speak first? Or?
No.
Okay. So thank you for bringing this forward, because this is something the community has spoke about before. And Tyler, thank you. And the communication that we had, he had sent me how they had came to these numbers. I think that we could benefit more from community input on this matter for the fees, as well as rolling out how it's going to occur. I feel like we did the campground thing this summer, and I don't think it was the best rollout that could have happened. There was a lot of, I spoke to the campground host, and there was also other things like COVID and spacing and people saying, why can't I park next to my friend? And, there was the 6 feet thing and all that. I think we would really benefit from bringing this out, having a work session, getting some of the private campground owners out, just to get, I understand there's different amenities at different places, but maybe raising these fees could help us update our facility as well. I mean, if you've used you use the bathroom down there, and it's pretty basic. And I think maybe getting the right amount of fees, or looking at how we can maximize those fees in a responsible way, we could really benefit from. So I'd like to motion or move to schedule a work session on revising municipal campground fees.
Does that need a second?
Yeah, it
Can
does.
second.
I'll let you speak to it, then I'll let you answer, Councilmember Singa.
Well, this is a motion on the floor, so.
Yeah, okay.
So like I said, I think the best thing that can happen, like with a rollout, is one, the fees are going to be changing and people are going to come back and they're going to say, for 50 years I've been paying the same amount. How can we get the chamber involved to get those people that they're recommending, almost 90% of the people that they're sending to our campgrounds, help them get that information to some of the companies or best places where they can get that information, so before those users come here, they know what to expect.
So you're recommending a work session on the fee change, and also the second part of that would be working with getting the information out.
Yes.
Councilmember Singa.
So, I guess I have kind of two questions. One, I'm not sure how long you're wanting to delay this, or how long it would take. And then I was going to ask the director, Parks and Rec director, how long, or how do we have this information available for, when do we start next year's, people trying to make reservations for next year? When does that happen? Are we looking at, can that happen now, or can that happen, does that start in just the end of the year?
So, Councilmember, we're tentatively scheduled for February 1st as our target date.
Okay, so there's time to be able to, if we were to delay this, it wouldn't, I mean, the website would have to change, obviously, but And there would be some other changes, but we wouldn't be,
Correct. The only reservations that we're processing right now are caravan reservations, or large-scale group reservations. But that makes up a small minority of our overall reservations for the summer season.
So.
So there is time, yes, sorry.
Okay, that's good. Let's take a vote on scheduling a work session, and then that will help us decide if we postpone this motion or continue to discuss it. So let's just take a vote. There's no date attached to that, but just council wishes to schedule a work session.
Casa Grande,
Yes.
DeMoss,
Yes.
Cease,
Yes.
Osinga,
no.
McClure,
Yes.
Faughlan,
Yes.
Mayor Terry.
Yes.
This has been approved.
So since that was approved, let's go ahead and pick a date for that. And I'll look to the Parks and Rec Director. Do you have a suggested date? Like, what would work for you? It sounds like getting information out to those private campground folks in the chamber would be part of what we're looking for. We have a number of work sessions that we're scheduling later, but going into the holiday season, do you have a suggestion? What would give you enough time?
I can send the invitation out to those parties immediately
Did we?
to give them sufficient time.
Yeah,
Probably
yeah.
something in the range of 2 to 3 weeks seems reasonable at a minimum.
11th is Veterans Day. We don't want to do it on a city holiday.
What
Councilmember
about
Cease?
just the same night that we're doing the other one, on the 4th? That wouldn't be a very long meeting.
Yeah, we could do it at 6 on the 4th.
6 on the 4th.
Does that give, do you think that
Oh,
gives folk enough
notice.
time? That's like a
That's so just a week.
10 days away.
Yeah.
Mayor Terry.
Yeah.
So, I think now, since we're mostly virtual, maybe we can just have people encouraged just to call in and participate in the, they could call from wherever they are. So maybe the 4th isn't so bad if we can have a virtual format.
Or did we want to schedule it at the library community room so that people can be there in person and just social distance?
Yeah, I'm for it either way. I feel like if we can have it virtual and we can have it under our current rules. So there's more ways to participate, I feel now, since you can call in and participate. And
Could we just have it before the meeting on the 9th, or there was something else? Now that's, we're going back to that 9th thing again, but, since we'll all be together,
Yeah, 6 o'clock on the 9th.
something like that.
And we could have it here. Would we have the ability to have folks call into maybe a conference call number?
We don't have a call line like that, but we could certainly, I don't know, I'd have to talk to IT. We have, I don't know that we have a call-in number.
oh, we don't.
No, not for the public to.
I was thinking just setting up a conference call number through like AT&T or something.
Right, and I'll have to ask IT
Okay.
department for that.
Councilmember Casagrande?
Can we use Zoom?
Use what?
The city
So-
does not use Zoom.
We haven't been utilizing Zoom. Well, let's be creative. I think if we're inviting 3 to 4 local folks, we could also try to social distance in this space.
And just, I
Space
think
people
so.
out. So 6 o'clock on the 9th. And clerks, do you have an adequate title for that?
Discuss revising municipal camping fees.
That's good.
That sounds perfect. And then, so now we are back to Resolution 2020-086. Do we want to have a motion to postpone till the 9th or postpone till the second meeting in November? Would that make more sense in case there's revisions that have to happen from that meeting? Okay. So I'll move to postpone